We had an extended discussion, an hour and a half to 2 hours on January 5th. And when I pressed him on the point, I said, John, if the vice president did what you were asking him to do, we would lose 9-0 in the Supreme Court, wouldn't we? And he initially started it, well, I think maybe you would lose only 7-2. And after some further discussion, acknowledged, well, yeah, you're right, we would lose 9-0.
That was Greg Jacob, Mike Pence's White House counsel, testifying before the January 6th committee yesterday about a conversation he had with lawyer John Eastman, the man who wrote the coup memo on what would happen if Pence overturned the election on January the 6th and if it went to the Supreme Court. At one point, Eastman thought that maybe they would have two justices, presumably Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. A very telling moment as we continue to learn about the connections between the wife of Clarence Thomas, Ginny, and Trump world and the coup attempt itself. The Washington Post reported that the January 6th committee has obtained emails between Eastman and Ginny Thomas, which, quote, show that Thomas's efforts to overturn the election were more extensive than previously known, leading the committee to ask Thomas to testify. The story of the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and her involvement in the plot to overturn our democracy has been building since back in January. Back in March, I wrote about it too, noting that unlike others on the court, Clarence Thomas has never recused himself from a case because of Ginny Thomas or her work, and that given Thomas probably isn't going to recuse himself going forward and definitely won't resign, impeachment seems to be the only remedy, if, that is, Democrats in Congress are determined enough. Back with me now is a Democrat in Congress, Ilhan Omar, Democrat from Minnesota, who has also called for Thomas's impeachment. Congresswoman, it has been almost 3 months since we learned about Ginny Thomas's text to Mark Meadows. What is it like when you see some of these texts? They endorse some of the craziest far-right conspiracy theories from a wife of a Supreme Court justice. Watermarks on ballot papers proving corruption, having the Bidens tried by a military tribunal at Gitmo. This is insane stuff.
Yeah, Mehdi, it's not only insane, but dangerous.
Yes.
And, you know, I want to talk a little bit about the author of the coup memo, Mr. Eastman, isn't just only the author of that memo. He clerked with Justice Thompson. And so we know that the connection between him and Ginny is long and deep, which is alarming, right? And so you have to think about the kind of circle that she's involved in. We've learned about the kind of pressure that she put on legislators across the country to do what she wanted to do. We know that she harassed Meadow. We recently learned that she said, Pence was disgusting when he didn't do the actual thing of overturning the election, which is only him carrying out his constitutional duty. It does not make sense for us to continue to ignore the involvement this wife has on the decisions Justice Thompson makes. And it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense that we are not calling for his impeachment and proceeding with that.
I'm with you on that, but let me ask you this. A lot of defenders of Clarence Thomas, including Senator Josh Hawley, Republican, say, well, it's misogyny to suggest she doesn't have her own views, to say that her views are her husband's views. Even though in a recent interview, Ginny Thomas talked about how she and her husband share, quote, many of the same ideals, principles, and aspirations for America. Do you think it's possible that they do not influence one another? That if Ginny Thomas wanted to overturn the election based on deranged conspiracies she was reading online, Clarence Thomas didn't?
I really don't understand how we can believe what the text of the emails that we are reading where she is pressuring Meadows and not believe that she was pressuring her husband, and the fact that Mr. Eastman thought there could possibly be two, maybe including her husband, that information wasn't coming from her.
Yeah, those texts to Meadows, you put them alongside her emails to Arizona lawmakers. It's all very disturbing. You have called for Clarence Thomas, who didn't mention any of this when he was judging on relevant cases, didn't recuse himself. You've called for him to be impeached. Your colleague, Congressman Bill Pascrell of New Jersey, called this week for him to resign. Why isn't the Democratic Party at large taking a much stronger line on the Thomases?
They need to be. And, you know, the fact that the January 6th committee is thinking about calling her in to be interviewed is a start. The seriousness and the danger that Ms. Thompson poses to our democracy and our republic cannot be overstated. And her husband has a huge role. And to me, it is dangerous to allow him to get away with what he's been able to get away with.
I can only imagine what Republicans would be saying if this was Sotomayor's husband or Stephen Breyer's wife involved in a coup attempt against Donald Trump. We can only imagine what they would be screaming for. Congresswoman Omar, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.